Orson Scott Card thought that Speaker of the Dead would be his most famous book. Ender's Game, to him, was just a way to introduce Ender's character. Just a prequel, a throwaway prequel. Imagine his surprise when his throwaway prequel became one of the most famous sci-fi novels of all time. But is Speaker of the Dead his actual magnum opus? Was he right in thinking that it would be his best book? When the idea of the sci-fi series was planted in his head, it was Speaker of the Dead that he first envisioned. Ender's Game was written because he couldn't fit so much backstory into a single chapter, so he had to write a whole novel about it. The thing is, this prequel, in some ways, was better. One thing is certain, though. It is very different from Ender's Game. And the same people who liked Ender's Game might not like this book. Watch through to the end to see why, as I rate characters, plot, world building, and overall. If you want an age rating, it is basically the same as Ender's Game, so you can go check it out. Just, there's a tad bit more innuendo, but less brutality. Please like, speak for the subscribe button, and ring that bell through the Ansible if you like videos such as these, analytical reviews. But now it is time to get into its best aspect. Characters, 9 out of 10. If you have watched my review of Ender's Game, and you should have, then you will know that I really like Ender. He is in defiance of a trope that I dislike. But here though, it is not as impactful as it was in the first. While Ender now is not so much of a show stealer, he is a great outlet for revealing supporting characters' complexities. When we are inside his head, we almost know exactly what's happening in everybody else's heads. This gives us an appreciation for every motive they have and of every move they make. You guys have no idea how long I spent on that sentence. Really, the family is amazing. I'll avoid saying their names because of how ridiculously difficult it is to pronounce them correctly. What makes this family feel so special is how real they feel. Despite how messed up they are, we can kind of identify them, which honestly terrifies me a bit. When I got introduced to them, I got really invested. The problem is though, if you don't get invested in them, the story will be boring, as it relies heavily on them to pull your attention with the story along. You want to see them fixed, and you know Ender can do it, despite it seeming almost impossible. The alien species I will include under world building, for they have something truly special going on with them. But now, onto its worst aspect. Plot, 6 out of 10. This seems to be Orson Scott Card's weakness as a writer. This time though, instead of a plot twist destroying all of our expectations, the story meandered a bit. The pace was much slower, but can be forgiven because the book basically changed genres since Ender's Game. It never really hooked me. What got me into the story was the characters themselves, not the decisions of all the characters, which is plot. The plot did not drive together in a concerted push towards a singular goal. This caused feelings of detachment. What still kind of made it interesting though, was the tying of one alien species to the next through how their first impressions with humanity went. Always somebody got killed in a misunderstanding because these two alien species saw death differently. Which brings me to world building, 8 out of 10. I would have given this a higher rating if it had not encroached on the characters rating. It might have been a 9, but I knew the characters were better, so I gave it an 8. What immediately stands out though is how alien the aliens feel. No other book I have read has done this to such an extent. For writers like us, it is difficult to create an alien species not similar to our own genus. The closest we have to an alien on Earth is the octopus. I mean, this thing has 3 hearts and technically 9 brains. And try and create a culture with their biological differences in mind. What Speak of the Dead has over Ender's Game is a more original alien species. The concept of a bug hive-minded species originated with H.G. Wells in 1901, when he wrote The First Men on the Moon. But the Pequeninos are entirely different in ways that I can't go into without doing some spoiling. Finally, we come to the 100 Worlds. The regulations put in place seemed simple. Don't contaminate alien cultures. Well, the reasoning behind this was not what we believed, and it tied to the themes in an interesting and satisfying way. Overall, 7 out of 10. The exact same as Ender's Game, but their strengths and their weaknesses were kind of different. Ender's Game absolutely excelled in some places, but badly fell short in others. Speaker of the Dead, though, did not excel as much as Ender's Game, but it did not badly fall short in others. The thing is, lovers of the first book are more likely to be lovers of a more action-oriented sci-fi. Speaker of the Dead is not at all action-packed. All conflict, tension, and plot does not rely on some big military battle. Instead, it relies on a smaller scale but maybe as equally impactful ending. Also, it is much more philosophical. In the end, if you wish for something more introspective and about a battle hero who settles down with a family finally, this will be your cup of tea. If this video does well, I'll continue with the rest of the Ender's Game books. Until my review of the next installment, Veronwë out.